What is good, YouTube? It's your boy OG Boy back with another video, and in today's video I have a team consisting of Trevenant, Galarian Stunfisk, and Lanturn, and I saw this team quite a few times during Go Battle Day and decided to give it a shot myself. So Trevenant is actually a very solid pick in the meta despite Noctowl being extremely common, just because it does so well against the steel types such as Registeel, does good against the fighting types like the Medicham, and it also does a pretty good job against the Lanturn, which is also a very popular pick. So has a lot of good play across the meta as long as you can help it avoid the flying types. So we got two anti-flyers in the back. Did I say flyers in the first place? But yeah, we got two anti-flyers in the back. We have the Galarian Stunfisk and the Lanturn. So without further ado, let's get into these matches here. First match, we have the Trevenant into Sableye. So this isn't a great lead for the Trevenant, so I swap into the Lanturn here, and the reason why I chose Lanturn instead of the Galarian Stunfisk is just because if they decide to stay in, the Lanturn actually has a pretty favorable matchup against the Sableye here. So two Surfs will just about take out a Sableye with the spark damage on top, and you outpace them to the Surfs, as it takes you 5 to get to Surf and it takes them 6 to get to Foul Play. So that's why I decided to swap in Lanturn in this scenario, but they swap in a Medicham here, so this puts us in a pretty decent scenario, just because we'll actually be able to get some use out of our Trevenant. So I'm gonna go ahead and probably shield once and farm all the way down, and then we should have some energy ready for whatever comes in next. So the Sableye is in Seed Bomb range, so I'm gonna probably throw the Seed Bomb if it decides to come back in. So almost at 2 Seed Bombs, and I blindly throw the Seed Bomb here, and it ends up being a Bastiodon in the back, but we're still in a solid position just because we do have the Galarian Stunfisk still, and they are in Rock Slide range just about. So I'm going to throw the Rock Slide here. They're going to shield, but we should be okay. They do have quite a bit of energy, so I'm going to have to shield something, and they're going to get to another Foul Play here, and I CMP tie them foolishly because I miscounted their energy. So definitely should have just overfarmed a little bit in this scenario and had some extra energy for the Bastiodon in the back. I tried to undercharge there, but I don't undercharge enough, and then I'm gonna have to eat a flamethrower, but it's still a pretty dominant position just because this flamethrower doesn't do all that much, and we're gonna be able to reach the earthquake here to take out the Bastiodon. So able to kind of get out of a rough lead there just because they didn't have a hard answer to the Lanturn in the back. Next match, we have a Lanturn lead, so this is obviously very positive for the Trevenant here. And I'm going to overfarm quite a bit just in case they do decide to catch. And they're staying in here, which is pretty interesting. So I'm going to throw the Seed Bomb on the, right when I get it, and they end up catching on a Noctowl. But this actually is pretty good for us just because we were able to draw it out, and now we should be able to take care of it with our Lanturn here. So gonna have to eat a Shadow Ball here, and then we should be able to farm them down before they get to another move, as long as I undercharge this, but I don't remember if I do or not. Yeah, I do undercharge it. They do actually shield, so I'm willing to eat another Shadow Ball here. Actually, maybe I don't, because I've heard sometimes if the Lanturn doesn't shield, then the Noctowl can actually kind of flip it. So I shield there to be safe, just to match shields, and then I throw the Thunderbolt there, and it looks like they're double shielding, so they're trying to fight for switchback, but I'm just going to throw the Surf here and then farm them down, and they bring the Lanturn back in. So I'm going to shield this and preserve my Lanturn, just because I figured since they did that, they might be weak to my Lanturn in the back. So I'm going to farm them all the way down. The Noctowl, I think, had a move, so that's why I decided to throw the Seed Bomb on CMP, and then they had a Medicham in the back, so they decided to concede the match there. Next match, we have the Trevenant into Swampert, so this is the Dream lead, and they swap into the Noctowl, so we're going to be able to hard punish them with the Lanturn here. So pretty straightforward, just going to go straight for the Thunderbolt, And the Thunderbolt doesn't quite KO from this range, and it puts them in a very nice farm down range. So just gonna throw the Thunderbolt here and then farm them all the way down. You can throw a Surf if you want to avoid not taking the next Shadow Ball, but I tend to just farm down, and I think most Lanturn players tend to do that as well. So this puts us in a range where we're going to be able to get 2 Surfs off before we get taken out by the Swampert here. But honestly, this chip doesn't really do all that much for us, just because one Sleep Bomb from the Trevenant will KO anyways, and at this point the Swampert is just getting free farm on us. So gonna bring the Trevenant back in here, and opponent gonna throw some Hydro Cannons, and they end up having a Pidgeot in the back, so we're gonna be able to hard wall them with our Stunfisk, and that is a GG. So next match here we have a Alolan Ninetales lead, and since it does know Powder Slow, it is quite an unfavorable matchup for the Trevenant. So I'm gonna bring in the Lanturn here, and this is a pretty solid matchup for us if they stay in, just because the Weather Balls are resisted and they would have to land the Dazzling Gleam, but they stayed in there for a while before bringing in the Swampert, which is pretty interesting. So gonna have to stay in here obviously and play this out. I tried to call an Earthquake, but they just went straight for it. I don't know if there was really any point in trying to win switch back there. It probably would have been pretty hard. So I just decided to let it go. And then I'm going to farm them all the way down here and have a lot of energy ready for that Ninetales, but at this point we are in a pretty sticky situation. They do end up going for the Earthquake, which knocks us out. And then we do have a chance of winning this depending on what's in the back. If it's super weak to Galarian Stunfisk, we still have a shot here. So I'm staying in here, gonna shield the first Weather Ball, and then just try to take out this Alolan Ninetales here. And it ends up being an Azumarill in the back, so this is going to be too much for our Stunfisk to handle, and we end up losing that match there. So next match, I think this is the final match, we have a Noctowl lead. So this is kind of the nightmare scenario, and they actually swap in a Stunfisk, so this gives us a pretty good chance of winning switchback, since we were ahead on energy, and they do shield the Earthquake here. So I don't remember what I do here, if I call a bait or not. I tried to call a bait and they actually go straight for the Earthquake, so that's kind of devastating, just because I thought, they were so behind on energy, the only way that they'd be able to get out of this matchup was if they baited, right? So failed at calling the bait there, which is brutal. So at this point I'm feeling like I pretty much just lost this game here. I threw it super hard, but I'm gonna bring the Trevenant back in here, tank some energy, but now we just have to hope that our Lanturn can more or less 2v1 sweep here. So expecting the Noctowl to come back in, so I'm just spam clicking the Lanturn, and it ends up being their own Lanturn, so we can actually make it out of this matchup alive, since we are 1 shield up, and we are also 1 energy ahead since we swapped in first. So I'm gonna go for the Thunderbolt on the first move. I'm gonna shield this one. Hopefully it is the Thunderbolt and I am not getting baited. And now I do go for the bait, just because, this next Thunderbolt would put them in a farm down range, or it might take them out actually from this range, but successfully able to bait. So we should outpace them to the next Thunderbolt here, and we won't have to tank any energy. I'm going to overfarm just a tiny bit here, and then we're in a good spot now against the Noctowl. So we just have to hit a Thunderbolt and then farm them down a little bit. Even if they do manage to take out our Lanturn, somehow we do have energy on our Trevenant, and we can take them out with a charge move. So this puts them into the red, and then I'm going to bring in the Trevenant to force them to throw energy, and then I'm going to come back in and just surf the Noctowl, and we're somehow able to win that match, even though we lost switch in a pretty silly way. But it ended up working out somehow, so pretty happy about that. But yeah, able to go 4-1 in this set. This team's definitely pretty solid, depending on what you're seeing a lot of. If you see a lot of Noctowl leads, probably 9 times out of 10 you're gonna lose that, unless somehow you get a little bit lucky like I did in that last match and you're able to pull it off somehow. So yeah, that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and also submit your battles in the link in the description below, and I'll see you in the next one.